Hello, everybody. This is Mike.
And Beth.
And we are here. Beth is partially here. You want to unpack exactly what's going on in this moment?
I'm hangry because of multiple reasons. One, can we talk about the elephant in the room of recording the podcast that didn't record?
For an hour. Sorry.
I know, but this is on the worst day ever for that to happen. Because
I own it. Listen, full disclosure, this is our second take. This has never happened to us. We recorded a podcast earlier.
And it was the best podcast we've ever done.
It was a really good podcast.
Yeah.
It made you laugh, made you cry.
Yes, it was heart-wrenching at times. It was deep
and
philosophical.
The app that I used to record this on, I accidentally closed it before I finished saving it. So when I went back, it was gone, and an hour of our lives is wasted, Beth.
And I don't remember all the amazing things I said, because this is one of the things. When I speak and do things, I have for this I don't. For this we just talk. But still, even if I'm preparing to go somewhere and do a talk, I have gone through in my head multiple bullet points and I have an outline. But a lot of what I say is just what I say at that time. I don't remember it or write it down for another thing. So I feel like our listeners just missed out.
Is that what the comments often say? Beth feels like she's rambling?
No, that no one said that.
They
and
say that.
Also, I am hangry. So tomorrow I'm having a colonoscopy. I feel like I've already said this because I have, but they don't know that. So I am to the point of not eating since yesterday. So yesterday was Josh's birthday. We went out to celebrate. We had a meal. I went to bed. I haven't eaten since then. And I've had some clear broth and some just yummy Jell-O. No Sprite yet. Some great Gatorade mixed with Mucinex. It's delightful. I just don't know this. I'm living the dream here, living the dream. So I don't know why you're smiling at me like that or thinking this is odd.
You are so angry. It's amazing. You were angry earlier today when we recorded, but now you're really angry.
I am. And
now evidently you're freezing, you're wrapped up in a blanket.
It's 5 degrees outside.
So it's not inside.
I know, so it's practically
our
10 degrees
thermostat
in
is
here.
At 70 degrees.
Well, it doesn't feel like it. It's something about this house with its ceilings or something. It's freezing. Or maybe because I don't have any food in my body temperature has dropped dramatically to dangerous levels and I can't heat myself because I don't have any food.
Then eat and cancel your appointment.
No, we already been through this. Not that the listeners know this.
All right, they know that.
My great service to humanity is that I'm talking openly about my colonoscopy and prep on this.
And why are you having a colonoscopy tomorrow?
Because it's a screening for a 50-year-old person. And I feel like, there's more attention drawn to some of these routine screenings, but people won't talk about a colonoscopy because it involves your colon, also known as butt or buttocks down there, like your colon area. Sorry, I just gave me a look. Can we cut that out?
No, this is the edgiest you've ever been. You dropped the B word.
I'm so tired and hungry.
You hadn't been up for 24 hours straight. You still got to sleep.
Anyway, it's your colon. And people will just not talk about it. And so I didn't want to go around and tell people, for example, I was on a call today. They're like, we're going to have to schedule another meeting. And I was like, okay, well, I won't be available Thursday. Well, I don't want to have to be because I'm having a super secret medical procedure or I'm going away to a spa or something like that. It's just, I'm having a colonoscopy. I'm 50 years old. This is what 50-year-olds do to make sure that if you have something, hopefully they catch it quickly.
And if you don't, if everything's fine, you don't have to do this again until 10 more years.
Yes, exactly. I hope, beyond hope, everything's fine.
Well, that wasn't the case for me.
I know. And that's this has already set a bad precedent in my mind since yours wasn't fine.
Well, I'm just saying that, it was a pain in the butt, no pun intended,
Yes.
to go through everything to do it. But everyone says the drugs are great, and when they knock you out, it's an amazing nap. And that is absolutely true. And but for me, they did find some things concerning. So they had to send that off for testing. Everything came back fine. But because of that, I have to go in 3 years to have it done again. So,
but that's the other thing, is the angst around it too. So it's like,
I may not just do it again.
Physically. Don't start this. We're not going to have this argument right now. You will go. I will make you.
My body, my choice.
Oh, no, you are going to go. But listen, going back again, a minute, rewinding back to this. Yes, there's physical discomfort, but anytime you have routine screenings, I think there's a little bit of anxiousness. And I even said this on the other one. So
especially when they get to your age.
I'm not that old, but I've been having mammograms since I was 28 because my mom had breast cancer when she was 33 and I'm high risk. And so even though there may be nothing, each time I go to have a mammogram, because I am high risk, I'd say at least 50% of the time, I usually have to wait longer or even go back and get them to relook at something. And I'm glad that they're giving this extra attention to me, but that creates a lot of anxiety. And then there was one time where I had to have an MRI and a biopsy, and just the finding out that somebody found something, then the waiting and all of that. I mean, it creates anxiety, but the other thing that we talked about last time that nobody got to hear because it didn't record, but I think all of this goes together with how I'm feeling because my body is hungry, and I didn't sleep good last night, so I'm tired, and it goes back to that thing that I had a sign that we hung in our pantry door for years, and it said, "Halt." And the intention was when you open the door, you think about, how am I feeling? Am I H, hungry? Am I A, angry? Am I L, lonely? Am I T, tired? Because these things are real. When you are hungry, I mean, it doesn't just make your body feel bad. It makes you mentally feel bad. Your emotions are impacted. You may not feel as sharp when you're thinking.
Listen, as an empath, I feel your emotions.
Oh, you are not an empath. I am the empath. But anyway, you feel it because I'm angry and you're looking at me and you know I'm angry. I'm hangry. But those things, I think, it impacts what is going on with us physically. If we are tired, that will make you feel like you're losing your mind and going crazy. Like when I was nursing and working and trying to work all day and then come home and not get any sleep, or the kids were sick, and I didn't get sleep. There was a period of time, I think, when I had Jacob as a toddler and Maria as a baby, I went to my therapist. I thought that I was losing my mind. I thought that I was that I had something wrong with me. And she told me to get 4 hours sleep, and I did, and I felt like a new person. And so I think, we started to talk about it, Lent's coming up, and that's a time when people think about giving things up and things like that. And I was thinking about all the people who may give up certain things, or there's fasting, and I made the comment today that I wouldn't have fared well in biblical times when people were out in the desert fasting, because to your point, I haven't even made it. I don't know. How many hours has it been?
It's not been 24 hours
exactly.
Yet.
And I am not reacting. But
look at how you could have utilized these 24 hours spiritually.
Yes.
If every time your stomach growled, every time you felt these hunger pains, that's the act of fasting. It's that giving something up, that sacrifice that should draw you closer to the Lord, Beth.
But in reality, it just makes me angry.
It does.
So I know.
So who's it drawing you closer to? Not the Lord.
I guess I'm not. No, I in theory, I understand how this fasting and depriving myself would do that. I will say, though, I did have this reflection today. I didn't realize how many times I may eat out of routine, habit, or comfort, or boredom even, So this morning, one thing that was really hard, I need half and half in my coffee. And when you're doing this prep, you're not allowed to have milk or...
You don't need half and half in your coffee. You like to have it. It's a luxury.
Let me rephrase.
For you.
I would prefer not to drink coffee than to have it without half and half. So...
Have you tried it with cinnamon?
Yes, and it's not enough. I mean, I
It takes away the bitterness.
but not enough. I need just a little half and half. What is so hard to understand about this? I just stop provoking me. Where was I even? I had a point, and now you're like making me not think about it. Where I was going with this was, I really
you realize how much you just crave and eat and want things.
No, I just wanted my coffee because it is 2 degrees outside. It feels like, I mean, I exaggerate a little. What is it, 10 degrees? I mean, it's very cold.
Well, the high today was 29.
Okay, super. So when it was cold, it probably wasn't off very, very much when it was at its coldest. But those things bring me comfort, like the coffee does. It's like also a psychological thing. It's something about the smell and holding the warm cup, and it's just all of that. Like, it's something. And then I think about, like, I took a break from work, I had a call, and I walked by here, and I was like, oh, I just want a little something. And it's like, was I hungry? Well, yeah, of course I'm hungry now all the time. But at that moment, I wasn't feeling particularly hungry, but it was a time of day in a location where I feel like you're supposed to eat something. It's like a conditioned response to want to eat at some of these points in time. I guess that's what I've realized with the fasting, which part of, I guess, is the point of the fasting. Not only realizing that you can live without these things and, turn to God instead, but also probably just recognizing the things you might just be doing on remote control autopilot as opposed to thinking about it.
Do you think if you fasted, not just from food, but from other things, by your choice, more regularly than when you were forced to fast from things, it wouldn't bother you as much?
Yes. I think that, well, 2 other reflections I've had in reflecting about this. One, you just made me think about this, but I don't like being told what to do, as many people don't. And I think because this feels like I'm having to just follow these random instructions, because there are parts of the instruction, and I'm like, well, this doesn't seem fair because some people...
Can I call a timeout?
Yes.
You, probably if we go back and listen to every episode of this, at some point, you used the words, well, that's what the science says.
Okay.
So, no, let me finish. So now, the research and science that has gone into what it takes to prep for a colonoscopy, now all of a sudden is just randomness. Nope. And it doesn't matter.
No, you're not letting me finish my thought. Let me tell you what I think is random about it. Okay, I had to stop eating. I think you like
science when it backs up what you want it to do.
I had to stop eating last night and then all day today. When I scheduled this, I thought my colonoscopy was earlier. It got moved. It's not until noon. Some people have theirs at 6 a.m. That is a 6-hour time difference between when I'm having mine. Why do I have to stop eating and go that additional time? I think there should be a time certain. It should be something like, you can't, if your procedure, like let's say it's 48 hours and you count backwards, and that's when, because to me, I feel like I'm being treated unfairly because my appointment is later. And
your appointment is at what time, noon?
Noon.
What about the people who have 1 o'clock appointments?
Well, then it's even more unfair for them. And like, I think that we should be able to.
4 o'clock appointments?
Because I bet, here's the other thing with the science. I'm sure science points to this, but I'm sure it's also, it's like for the most extreme circumstance. Like, this is what the worst of the worst has to have to be like completely ready for this prep. And they probably don't trust most of us to do math and to count back 48 hours. So they're like, well, we just need to tell them the full day before they have to do this. So I'm not saying I don't trust the science. I do trust the science. I'm just saying some of this seems a little arbitrary. So that frustrates me. But I think we were talking about, I don't like to be told what to do.
You brought that up. I didn't.
Well, I don't think many people would be like, I love to be bossed around and told what to do. Like, of course, if we choose it ourselves, I think it feels, I don't know, a little better.
The colonoscopy was free will. You didn't have to sign up for this. All right? They're not going to, like, withhold your salary if you don't go. Your hospital is not going to fire you if you don't go get this done.
But I need to do this because it's part of taking care of myself as a responsible adult to know that everything's okay.
Then just suck it up.
I am sucking it up. But the other thing I was reflecting on it's also, it feels vulnerable. I don't think I like the idea. I've never liked any procedure that I don't know what's going on. So I had oral surgery years ago, and the endodontist told me that I was the first person that had ever made this request. But I asked to have a mirror so I could hold it up and watch what they were doing, because feeling them doing these things in my mouth and not knowing was disturbing for me. I felt better by being able to observe and know what's happening. So with this procedure, I won't know.
Beth.
Yes.
I'm sure if you ask the doctor if you can have a mirror to watch what's going on back there, he'll let you.
I don't want to. I'm not saying that I want. I'm just trying to like articulate all of the reasons that I think I'm grumpy right now, because it's just all of these. It's a multifaceted
But am I not
thing.
soothing to you?
No, you're not soothing to me at all. If anything, you're making me angrier with the comments you're making, because just some of the things, and I can tell the listeners can't see your facial expressions, so they don't realize like you're instigating. You're
not.
like pushing my buttons.
I have not done that one time.
Yeah, I think you are. But anyway, enough about colonoscopies, except I would like to say to people to have one, because, we both have family members that have different health issues, and it's...
And for those of you who are curious what one is like, I am going to video it and put it on our Facebook page. So if you go to the Hey, Are You Still There Facebook page next week, it'll be up there.
No, it won't.
Full Moon Monday.
No, stop it. Oh my gosh. Okay, but one thing we talked about that was interesting and entertaining that kind of related to this whole theme of like holding yourself back or fasting was TikTok. Mm-hmm. You want to talk a little bit about Maria and our experience last night about the TikTok discussion?
Yeah, so Maria and Josh, our two youngest, the world came to an end on January 19th. That was the day that TikTok shut down.
So is there like a Wikipedia entry for that or something?
I'm sure.
It is like important dates in history.
They've been talking about it for weeks.
Yeah.
So the day came, TikTok shut down. Maria, for whatever reason, deleted her app. Okay.
And she told the whole reason, but it's too long to go into here.
Yeah.
But it was a misunderstanding. She thought that if she deleted it and re-downloaded it, it would work better.
Yeah. Josh, being Josh, just decided to just forget TikTok, and he went and found some communist China app called like Red Book or Red Note or something.
And we were like, no, Josh,
yeah, he was already looking at stuff on there.
And
we're like,
no,
you can't do that. So then January 20th, monumental day in the world.
Yeah.
TikTok came back.
Yes.
And we got a new president. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All that matters is TikTok came back.
Exactly. That's again, Wikipedia entry or what have you, important date would be the day TikTok
Our kids didn't
returned.
even know we got a new president.
Yeah,
All
they're
they
like,
knew
huh?
is TikTok came back.
What happened to the old president? That's probably what they were thinking.
But because Maria had deleted the app, she hasn't been able to use it. And so, because it's not in the App Store anymore, she can't re-download it. So if you already had it, you can watch it. But if you deleted it, or you never had it, you don't have it. Mm-hmm. So last night we go out for Josh's 15th birthday. It was the four of us, me and Beth, Josh, Maria, and the
grandparents.
both sets of grandparents.
Yeah.
So the 8 of us. So we go out and we eat. And on the way home, we're talking about TikTok. And Maria is really showing signs of great maturity and wisdom. And she was talking about, she's like, you know what I realized? She was like, just how much time I wasted on TikTok, and just how much it was like an immediate response. And she said, she's like, I don't even have the app anymore. And I find myself pulling out my phone and going to click where the app used to be.
Because she said it was just a habit.
It's
not even like she's consciously thinking, I need to check TikTok, or I'm going to TikTok to look at this very specific thing.
Right. It's like I said, it's Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
It's just like the bell would ring, the dog come and want food.
Yeah.
For whatever Maria has, she would have these triggers throughout the day, and she would want to pick up her phone and go to TikTok. So she's telling us about this last night. She's had this great revelation of,
and she only had the revelation because she was essentially forced into fasting from TikTok.
Yeah. So she's telling us this. So I So yeah, we were like, what are you missing? And she said, the only thing I'm missing is she's going to Disney, big shocker, pretty soon. And it's the Epcot Festival of Arts.
Now, also known as farts to the people in Disney
the
World.
to the Disney adults.
They will call it that.
They call it farts. But it's the Festival of the Arts.
Yeah.
And they have all this food that they normally don't have. So she was like, well, I'm really missing the Disney TikTok food channels, whatever you call them. I don't have TikTok. I've never had TikTok. I don't download. I've never had it. So she's like, so I'm missing seeing what the foods are and what people are eating and yada, yada, yada.
And I said, well, you could do it the old-fashioned way where you show up and you order the food and you eat it and you either like it or don't like it. And she said,
oh, that'd be a waste of money.
Exactly.
I mean,
so
that's
she needs to know what the influencers say, which then I say, but we all have different tastes. But anyway, that takes us down a different path. But yeah.
So she's having this moment of revelation last night and great maturity, and we're so proud of her.
Yeah.
And I jokingly just said, well, Beth, don't you have TikTok on your phone? And she said, yeah. And I was like, well, you just give your phone to Maria and she can look all that stuff up. Maria lost her mind. She had not even thought about that.
Yeah.
And she was like, forget everything I just said. That was literally her exact words.
Yes, she was like, I need it. Please let me have it.
I have to have it.
Please let me have it. I need it. And we were just like, well, that was short-lived. That small burst of maturity and stuff. So, yeah. So then I'm a sucker. So I told her that she could use my phone last night to look at her stuff, and she went upstairs, and I don't think she was only looking at food stuff. She was watching. She was like, as soon as she logged on, she was like, I have had 100 people sending me this or liking this comment or asking, like, I don't know. Again, I barely can operate TikTok. So she was just like a new person once she was able to look at TikTok.
She came downstairs and she was like, I feel recharged.
Yeah, like she's just reinvigorated, a new shot of life.
Yes.
But it made us think about this like love-hate relationship with social media. And Josh and I actually had a deep conversation about it this past weekend because we were talking about, I was just talking about like with social media, like all these studies that they've done. Because as Mike pointed out, I like the science. But that like doing a lot of these things on social media actually releases dopamine, which seems like it would be a good thing, except it's like teaching our brains to like constantly crave this dopamine release that you're doing when you're scrolling through. And I've also read articles, when you think about it, like that social media serves some good purposes. And that's one of the things we talked about, like Josh and I, during COVID, Jacob and Maria had both Jacob had been in his high school 1 year, but Maria had just started high school and didn't have like this solid base of people or anything. And so that was their connection to other people their age. If they hadn't had that, they wouldn't have had a way to talk to people. Plus, our kids have some really unique interests, as do we. And so social media really allowed them to connect with other people that had those interests. So like, for example, if I'd grown up where I'd grown up and I loved Spider-Man and Marvel Comics, I don't know that I would have found anybody else in my rural community that also is obsessed with it. But you have social media that can connect you, and there are groups. And so, like, for example, Maria joined a Star Wars group and a Marvel Comics group, and she met friends, and then she and those friends would FaceTime, and then they found out they loved Disney. Well, by the time she got to the Disney college program, she was already connecting with people like she already knew them, like friends that she legitimately felt like she knew deeply because they would have these FaceTime talks and because they'd had these connections of things they loved. So social media is fabulous. And then we talked about too, is the way that we advertise like our church events, our mission and service projects, our Hope Center. It's how we get the word out to people. Facebook's one of the only ones that has like the groups. And so I've done online Bible studies. You can have group travel groups to get information. So lots of good things to come from it. But I think part of the danger and bad stuff is like the mindless scrolling, because I've noticed even in my own experience, sometimes it just sucks you in and you're like, where did that 30 minutes go? And also when I really tune in, kind of like I feel like I'm like Maria a lot of the time where I'm on autopilot and I'm not tuned in to what I'm feeling. But if I'm being thoughtful about how I feel, most of the time when I've done the mindless scrolling, I end up feeling worse.
What do you feel worse?
I think it's a lot of factors. I think one of the reasons is I'll sometimes feel guilt because I'll look at it and I'll be like, I just spent 30 minutes and I have nothing to show.
I see that at night when we sit down and have TV time. We're like sitting here watching television and you're scrolling on your phone. Do you feel guilty about that?
That is not what we're talking about. And no, I'm not scrolling on my phone. Like the other night, I was looking for tickets for Maria for her trip. So I was not scrolling. But if I were mindlessly scrolling, there's that. But I think also it just leads to like comparison. And it just makes you look and think a lot of times like, well, I wish my house was that clean. Or I wish my family looked like their picture perfect family looks right now. Or, it just makes you, I think, just constantly compare. Or,
do you think that's a man-woman thing, or do you think it doesn't matter the gender, it just matters like how you're wired? Because honestly, I've never scrolled and felt that way.
I think that it's how you're wired because I've talked to other men. I won't say their name on here, but I've heard of
Tell us.
No.
What other men? Tell us.
I'll tell you offline. But I mean, I've talked to people who've said, I just see those things and it makes me either compare, makes me feel bad, that they're not there. So I think, and I'm not saying that's the only reason it's not helpful, but I also
I think that's the problem. I only friend people on social media that I feel are lesser than me.
Oh my god!
So then when I scroll through, it makes me feel good about myself.
Okay, so everyone on social media.
So if you're my Facebook friend, you know how I feel about you. I mean, I already drive a Subaru, so I think I'm better than everybody.
But it's just, I say all this to say the other point that I made to Joshua, though, in addition to like this like love-hate, I guess, relationship with social media and how it does have good aspects, but also I think a lot of dangerous bad aspects. There's also a lot of bad stuff that happens on it, like bullying. That's another reason it makes me feel worse. Like, I know sometimes people read the comments to things and they laugh, but I read the comments to things and I think that there are a lot of really angry, hateful people, in the world. And
see, that's what makes me laugh. It's honestly, like I have to put down. Like, I don't do TikTok, but I'll look at the Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
And I'll see some stuff. And as soon as it pops up, I almost spring my thumb going to the comments.
because you know it's going to be better than the original story or what have you. Yes.
And I lay there and laugh. And I have to hold it in sometimes because you're asleep. And I am dying inside at some of these comments. And that's when I do get jealous. I'm like, I wish I was that witty.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, how long would it have taken me to think about that?
Well, I think the thing is, though, but if you really step back, some of the stuff, though, is playful and funny and witty, and some of it's just downright mean.
I know.
Yeah, and that's so. But anyway, that's also can make you feel bad. But the other thing, the point that I made to Josh too, because he was saying that he feels like it's just like TV, like all the generations have something that they're like, that's going to rot your brain or whatever. Because, now the new word is brain rot based on social media. But I think the difference is when we watched TV, yes, I think that our parents might have looked and said, oh, you need to stop watching TV. You should read or play outside. But a TV stayed in one place. And most of the time when I was young, the TV was in the living room. We didn't have TVs in multiple rooms of the house. So you weren't strapping a TV on your back to carry it around to look at while you were out at a restaurant for dinner. You weren't, taking the TV with you in the car to watch movies. You weren't taking the TV on a hike. The issue is now with like the smartphones, the social media in the entertainment is there everywhere 24/7. There's never a moment that, this generation really could, if they want to avoid being bored, they'll never be bored again because there will always be a movie or TV show or something to scroll through or a game to play. And so I feel like it'll
I just thought about
creativity.
Yeah, we've all seen like those futuristic TV shows or movies or something where they're discovering something, and let's say there's like an abandoned city or something,
Yeah.
or whatever. There's been testing done.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like you know the type of movie. But they go into a room and there's someone that's been like strapped to a chair with a television.
Yes,
in front of them,
and that's been some form of like brainwashing or something in the movie. Yeah.
That is what's happening today. Except you're not strapped to a chair. You're doing it yourself. Like people are on their phones, and not just kids. There's adults too. I've been in meetings with adults where we're having a meeting and I'll look over and I'll see a grown man or grown woman like in their 40s just scrolling on social media while the meeting's going on. And I'm like, you can't sit here for 30 minutes and listen. You have like...
Or you drive somewhere and like you're having a meal with somebody and you're like, we drove to this restaurant specifically to see each other. And then you'll see people and everybody is on their phone. And I'm not talking about like if you're traveling and like you're having to Google map where you're going next or something, I don't want to make it sound like, oh my gosh, you should never look at your phone or sometimes, but I've really made a conscious effort, as of late, I'll put my phone on the table, but sometimes I'll tell people if I look at my phone, it's because I'm expecting a text from one of my kids or because I have something, but otherwise I try during certain periods of the day to be like, I am not going to be on my phone because I either want to give this person my full attention or this experience. And I was telling Josh, I was like, now, we'd even noticed this a long time ago, years and years ago, before even the phones were that popular. You and I went to Chicago and we were on public transportation and we talked about how crazy it was because everybody had in the headphones. And so no one was striking up a conversation with anybody. I mean, and that's the other thing. Like I think about like in Germany when we ate at one of those restaurants, they would there'd be a table with 6 chairs and you're just sitting with strangers, literally right beside them. Sometimes you would strike up conversations. I would have really interesting conversations and meet people. But if I had been glued to my phone, I'm not doing that. And even in college, like I'm on a board for a college. 2 of my kids are in college. Like they're saying kids aren't leaving their room because, before it used to be like, of course I'm going to leave my room. What's there to do in my room? I'm going to go in the hall and talk to my friends and make new friends and go on this activity. And now you can sit in your room and play online games with the security of the friends you've always known back home. It's not going to push you out into the world, for like a new adventure or for something scary. It's like a security blanket, like crutch or something. And then the brainwashing part, I think, is also the other thing. You and I've talked about this before too. It's scary with the algorithms because I guess if you're out in the real world, you can still surround yourself with people who think like you are going to feed you the information you want. But at least if you travel a little bit or go to work, you're probably going to run into some people that have some differing views. I get concerned, like you said, now that you've given me that image of the person being brainwashed. But like you and I've talked about, just based on what you see, there will be stuff that I never see on social media in my feed, or even people we know. Like I'll be like, did you see that so-and-so, was diagnosed with this illness or this happened? And
we can just go back to Trump just got inaugurated, right? Yeah. He's in office again. But going back to the election, I am not a mainstream media guy. Like I'm one of those guys that follows all the what Beth would call crazy conspiracy websites, and but just kind of that.
You're just looking for the more independent news venues.
Yeah, exactly. The independent news. Let's see what's going on, and I kept telling you leading up to the election what was going to happen.
Yeah, and
I said Trump is going to win.
Yeah.
And you were like,
no,
there's
no way Trump is going to win.
Because the stuff that was popping up on your feeds, on your friends' feeds,
yes.
on everything else. And I kept saying, Beth, they're just telling you what, you read an article and then they're going to give you 100 articles like it.
But then that makes you wonder, did that influence what really happened? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Like, because do people then just like give up and not vote one way or the other, or does that make more people vote? I mean, I don't know, and that's probably going way down the rabbit hole, but it is interesting because I try to have, I think, I love people and I love different cultures and I love different opinions and points of view, so I've always worked hard, I think, to have a pretty diverse, friend base and everything. And when I say diverse, I don't just mean, racial ethnicity. I mean, everything, like as far as religion and background and socioeconomic, all that, because I love hearing about different people's experiences and stuff. And so it's kind of, I guess, alarming would be the word for me to think, that I might be influenced like that and not even know it, or I'm being fed things, and here I am. I think that, I'm getting this global view because I pride myself as a lawyer. You collect all the information that you can so that then you can formulate your arguments and come up with, what you're going to say for your argument in your case or what have you. But you want to know all the information on both sides. And so that's something I feel like I try really hard to do in life, is collect all that information. And I don't know what this whole thing does if you're getting it, now through these other outlets, if that's where you're going and getting your information.
I think it's part of the programming. It's the whole algorithm. I mean, they do that. They have the however they do it, the bots that just figure out what you want to
hear, or maybe it's even sometimes what you don't want to hear. Because there's also things that come across that I'm like, ugh, I don't want to see that or hear that. But there's probably some reason,
I think that's why everyone was so outraged when TikTok left the U.S. for 9 hours.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was a long 9 hours.
There's been so many other things that have happened recently that the general public was not outraged about.
Right. That really matter.
And they lose TikTok and they lose their minds.
Yes.
And
there were people screenshotting things. Like I saw, and some of them were influencers, but I saw like one person screenshotted the thing. I guess TikTok, when you tried to go on it, had something like, it's not working, some type. And that person was like, I knew this time was coming, but I thought I would have more time. And it was like a person had died.
It was like end of life. It was crazy. But that's where, circling back to fasting, it's hard for you to fast right now from food.
Yeah.
Because you don't normally do this.
Right.
Ever. And it was hard for not just our kids, but the other billion people that were obsessed with TikTok to lose that. Because they don't ever take a rest from it.
Right.
And, you don't have to starve yourself for 24 hours. You don't have to go 2 weeks without TikTok or social media. But I think you need to, at times, feel what it feels like to not have it.
Yeah.
And take that Sabbath and take that rest and to put it down. And that's why I like the season of Lent so much, because I think it encourages people to do that and it gives them permission where normally they don't feel like they have permission to do that. For me, whenever I feel like I don't even have TikTok on my phone, but Facebook and Instagram's there, and if I have time to kill, I usually go to that and pull it up. And if I start to feel like I'm looking at it too much, step one for me is I take those apps and I bury them in a folder so they're not first thing I see when I open my phone. And that helps. And then if I find myself still going to the folder or typing into search, then I just delete the apps off my phone. So then it makes me have to go to Google or Safari or some other web browser to type it in.
And the very act of logging in now makes me angry to anything. I mean, because I'm just like, why am I having to log in? I had Face ID. It's like,
or they have 18-step verification, and it's like,
but that is enough, I think, to make you maybe be like,
do I really want to
see this?
I'm just lazy enough to say, it's really, I don't care.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for our ministry, I would not have social media at all. I would have zero. So I'd delete Facebook, Instagram, everything. But you need it to promote something that you care about.
Right.
If you own a business, you got to have social media. If you have a church, you got to have social media. I mean,
because we tried to think about ways too that we could even do it without it. Like I thought about, I guess you could have a website and you could post for the Hope Center, hey, the Hope Center's closed today because of the weather. But it's so much simpler because most of the people who are clients at the Hope Center's probably in their algorithm, so they're going to see that it's closed.
Well, and a lot of people, probably the majority of people, wake up in the morning and grab their phone. The first thing they do is look at social media.
Right.
Yeah. They ain't going to be logging in to our church website.
Right, exactly. They won't even remember what it is to go look.
Hey, are you still there.com?
Oh, of course, yeah.
To see what's happening.
But I will say I have a friend, Marissa. That's what we'll call her.
She's one of our number one fans.
So we love her. And every year she gives up Facebook for Lent. And she's consistent. And I like that because...
What if she wasn't going to do that this year and now she feels obligated because you just called her out?
Well, we're just calling her Marissa. Nobody knows who it really is.
Okay. We won't assume she's doing it this year.
Yeah. But I think, and she can change it. That's fine because she's done it so many years. But I think it goes back to kind of what you're saying is like, she always comes back to Facebook and she's an active presence on Facebook. She does fun things like at Christmas, she wears like a different Christmas sweater every day or posts it. So like she is an active contributor and engaged, but she is able to take that time away too. And I guess that's the other thing with fasting. It proves to us that we're not dependent. Like life will go on if we don't have that thing. Like I know it is hard for me to believe, and I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but I will survive not eating today.
Hopefully you will.
And part of tomorrow, and not having my coffee. But that's a reminder we need, because I think that's the other thing, like an app or anything, when something has that much control over your life. I'm just the person who just said, I don't like to be told what to do. But in a way, isn't that what any sort of like addiction or really ingrained habit is? Mm-hmm. It's like you allowing this impulse or whatever to tell you what to do. And so maybe that's the fasting just kind of is a way, because it's only in stepping back, because that was the interesting thing about Maria. She would never have had that clarity without that 9 hours without it. She would have just, even if I tried to have this conversation like, you're programmed to do this, it's a habit, here's the science, she would never believe me. But she had to have that, awareness by stopping for a little while. And so I think it's important for us. And that's probably why Marissa, does that. She sees that like it's something that when used appropriately can enhance her life, but she's not dependent on it and doesn't have to have it every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have to have it for, hey, are you still there?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a given. So if people want to impulsively make it a habit to listen to that, I think that's a good safe one. We are really, we strive to be balanced
and we're putting quality
unbiased.
entertainment up on our Facebook page. So if you're not following us on Facebook after we just spent 45 minutes ranting on it.
But we did talk about the good parts too.
Yeah, and like I said, one of the good parts is, hey, are you still there? Facebook page. I put up the commercial the other day, and
I don't remember what episode we talked about that.
It was early. It may have been episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
We talked about.
We didn't even say it was a commercial. We just said they were filming something
Maria's
here.
in UNC School of the Arts. She's in their film program. Her and some of her film school friends had a project they were working on, and they were at our house for a couple of days, over several hours, videoing what now we can tell you was a 30-second Doritos commercial. Doritos does a thing where they encourage young filmmakers to make a commercial and send it in, and then they have a contest, and whichever one is deemed the best gets shown during the Super Bowl. I don't know if they do this every year, but they're doing it this year. And so Maria and her friends wrote a script, came up with it all, and filmed a 30-second Dorito commercial. It unfortunately did not win. So because it did not win, we're able to show it now. And so we put it on our Facebook page this past week, and it's on YouTube. And we actually have a Hey, Are You Still There YouTube page also, which I'll get to in a second. But it's gotten, I posted it, and all the responses have been like, this is better than what we see. And it is really, really good. I know I'm biased, but it was really creative.
Yes.
A lot of fun, and it is better than a lot of the commercials you see,
And talking about creativity, that's just a cool thing, is seeing these like young creatives, like what they come up with, and seeing how much work and really striving for excellence, went into that. Like, I heard you slam our door and say, hey, out the door about 800 times. late into the night, to the point that we joked the neighbors were going to call the police and think something crazy was happening. But that's because they were perfectionists. They wanted it right, and they kept redoing
They
the
did say
angles.
I was a natural.
Well, yeah, let's not forget that. But they kept redoing, to get the sound right, the lighting right, the everything.
I'm going to say no less than 15 hours went into that.
Oh, yeah. And that's what we saw at our house. We don't
Yes,
know
that was-
the time that they prepped ahead of
for
time.
a 30-second commercial.
And also the time that they spent editing it.
Yeah.
Because that was the other thing. I've learned so much about the film process by now talking to Maria and watching it happen, and through her summer immersion program, learning about the different disciplines. But even with that, how much footage would they have? And then going through and editing that down to 30 seconds. I will say, I blogged a lot, and I used to write for a group, Encouragement Cafe, and I wrote some for Everyday Exiles, which is a blog, and some of the things was on a few other Christian things. But I remember some of them would have strict word limits, and the first inclination you have, I think, is to write a lot and to feel like you need to say a lot, and it's really challenging to keep cutting it down.
Well, and I've heard that even in preaching.
Yeah.
That preachers who preach long are preachers who aren't prepared.
I can see
Because
that.
they didn't take time to go through their sermon and cut out
refine
the
it.
fat.
Yes.
And so they just write it and just blah. And
Yeah.
if you can't say what you need to say in no more than 30 minutes,
Yeah.
you did not put in the time. You think if you have an hour sermon, that, oh, wow, he spent a lot of time on this or she spent a lot of time on
Right.
this. No. They wrote a bunch of stuff and then just got up there and babbled for an hour.
Right.
It's the cutting it down, trimming it, figuring out how can I get this point across in a short, clip. And that's what they had to do, is they had all this footage. It was how do I pull out the best to get our point across? And I thought it was fabulous. I thought the commercial
I
was
loved it
really,
too.
really well done.
And
So-
I think it's hard, like you said, too. The other thing that's hard about that, I think some of it's refining your idea to best get the point across. But they had cool stuff in there. And I've had this before. I'll have two analogies. Let's say I'm making one point and I've got two great examples I can use. And I want to use them both, but I don't need them both. And so it's painful or feels hard to pull out one of them, So I have to sometimes I have to put that one aside and be like, oh, I'll use this in the future for something else. But I'm sure for them too, there was good footage. There were props and things that we saw that weren't in that. They had to decide to pull that out.
I will tell you this story. I just now thought about it. I blew their minds. So when you watch the video, it's about a kid trying to
Get a date.
And trying to impress the father, who's played by me, to try to impress the father to take this girl out to the prom or some dance or something. And I think it was prom. And so he comes through clip after clip. He's coming and bringing stuff, flowers, candy, stuffed animals.
Huge stuff bear.
I mean, it just keeps adding and adding and adding. So right in kind of the climax of it all, they were like, all right, they were like, get all that, and then we'll give you a Doritos bag. And that'll be the thing that pushes it over the edge. And I said, hold up, no. I said, you got to get rid of all that other stuff. You need Doritos by itself.
Yeah.
And they said, why? And I said, because your way says Doritos was the final thing that was needed.
Yeah, the little extra cherry on top.
Only Doritos says it's all you need.
Yeah.
And they were like, whoa. They were just like, wow, it was so deep.
Coming in with your wisdom.
That
That's what
is.
being 50 will get you,
Yeah,
know?
and being a pastor and being able to pull a sermon analogy out of my butt, much like your colonoscopy. Come full circle.
Which, not to go off topic, but that'd be an interesting thing just on the multi-generational perspective. I think we get in these things where we're saying things like, oh, those Gen Zers, or somebody's like, oh, those boomers. But if you collaborate on things like that, and if everyone's open, it really is enriching because, you're seeing them, they're coming with all these fresh ideas and stuff, but then you've got truly this wisdom and life experience. And
because they had no idea that.
Yeah.
I've written who knows how many skits and dramas.
Right, because in youth ministry especially, oh my gosh,
and,
how many did we do?
And then all the dramas we do at group mission trips, and I have to direct, that I kind of had that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
And so they kept saying, what? They were like, you are natural. Yeah. And I was like, no, I'm a 50-year-old man who's done this for the last 30 years.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not a natural.
We've done some really bad skits.
Yeah.
Or you've seen some things that failed and didn't work so well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
which is really cool. But we post that, and I'd said too, I would love to post Maria's serious video that at least made me cry, but one that she did for class about
you posted
mother-daughter.
it on your personal Facebook page, and there was a lot of parents that said that made us cry.
Yeah, you should.
That felt like us.
Well, and it's interesting because I wish I could show it even as an analogy in my women's retreat on Saturday, because on one of the things we're talking about, love may mean letting someone go, but love also may mean you're the one that has to go. And that's kind of if you watch the video, it's about this really this tension, this tug of war between a mother and a daughter, and loving and holding on, but also letting go. And so it's really good. So we can post that too.
Yeah, we can post that on there also. And like I said, the Doritos is on YouTube. We are now on YouTube. I had no idea that YouTube had a podcast feature, but it does. And so we are now on there.
But not visually, because we do not want anyone to see us.
We don't need anybody to see us.
Because right now I'm wrapped in my blanket and I look very haggard and worn due to my lack of food. I look really pitiful. And we just don't look podcasty enough. We were saying if we're ever going to video, we have to do the thing where we've got the over-the-ear headphones and the big microphone, that you're talking to, and the soundproof room, and, maybe some like ha 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 laughs and stuff, like visual things, so we look really sophisticated, like we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to look the part if you're going to be on YouTube that way. But apparently you can just listen to things on YouTube, learn something new every day.
Yeah. So we're on YouTube now, and so people could go and listen, and we're already getting a lot of views. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because I haven't advertised it really. And so anyway, we're there. And
well, one thing you've got to talk about really quickly, because
we're running out of time, Beth.
But we have our love of board games, and like just the people we've met through board games, and because we've done a lot of board games over the years. Like I shared when we went to our first game, we had a deck building game and you had to pass around the cards, and I could not grasp what was happening. I had to have a person sit beside me and help me figure out the game. And now we've learned the mechanics of these games, and we've learned all the different ways they work. But you've got to talk really briefly about Tantrum Con, just because I want to encourage people, if they're ever interested in board games, to look at doing one of these conventions or our recon or something.
So while Beth is having her colonoscopy and her women's retreat this weekend, I am going to be down in Charlotte, North Carolina at a board game convention called Tantrum Con. And this is one that me and some friends go to every year. It's big. It's probably 1,200 people. It fills up a hotel in downtown Charlotte. It fills up all their exhibit hall space, and there's hundreds and hundreds of tables with people just playing board games, and you can sign up if you want for a certain game at a certain time, or you can just grab some games and some people and play. Literally everybody's a friend. You just play with strangers all weekend, and
which is what I love too, because you end up playing games with people that you would, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about, like if you're afraid your social circle looks too much like exactly like you think or something, this is a great way to meet people, because it's the only thing that is unifying about this is the board games. You're playing with people from different
Well, and it's
places,
neat.
different interests, everything.
We've been into enough of these conventions now. You kind of start running into the same people,
Yeah.
and you only see these people at the conventions.
That's the only time. Yeah.
I think of like
Yeah.
the mooses, you know,
Yeah.
like they come up for Recon.
Yeah.
I'll see them
Yeah.
at Tantrum Con. We'll play some games together. I mean, there's just all kinds of great people that you meet.
Yeah.
That you see at these conventions. It's like a little family reunion.
Yeah.
And even out of 1,200 people, you're running into a lot of folks that you know. And because we run our board game convention here, it's become pretty well known in North Carolina.
Yeah,
And
we have
so-
people that drive and get hotels. We have people. Yeah.
And
it's
so, if
it
Luke
sells
and I are
out.
walking around, people will see us and be like, oh,
Yeah.
Recon Mike, Recon
Yeah,
Luke.
yeah.
You know, like they recognize us from Recon. And so we kind of have that going for us too. And the cool thing this year is our good friend Doug is going to be there. And Doug is an award-winning game developer. He produced a game, created a game and produced it a few years ago called Garden Dice that won some awards. And now he's just created his second game called Cabriole, which is a furniture making game.
Which we got to play a few times, and that's been really fascinating because, again, I'm a lifelong learner. I just love learning and doing new things, and we got to play early prototypes. I mean, remember the cards were just like little white cards
Yeah.
with drawings on them,
And he just had printed out paper on poster boards,
yeah,
like for the board.
and we
stuff.
would
Yeah.
give feedback. Like we would tell him, like, "Oh, well, we think this is overpriced in the game. Not overpriced, like what you're paying for it, but the game play." Like we would give him ideas, or this piece is too powerful, or what have you. And it's been really neat to like watch that whole process unfold.
Yeah, and so he has the prototype finished, and he's going to be setting up a demo table all weekend and letting people come by, and he's going to teach them how to play, and he's going to be playing Cabriole all weekend. So I'm happy for him that, here he is. He had a dream. He put it together. It took him a couple years, and now it's ready for public consumption, and
I
he
think
wants to
people-
create a buzz, and he'll
Yeah.
have it on Kickstarter.
Well, and just like that video that those kids make, I don't think people could comprehend how much work goes into that. And even I mean, I haven't designed a board game, but you have to come up with like, his is based on furniture making, but you have to have sort of, these board games all have a story. Some are in outer space, some are in, old Europe, some are like under the water, and then you have to have your game pieces, and you have to come up with the mechanics of how your game will work. And then you have to think about, just like we said, how does it actually play, and will people understand and grasp it? There's a lot of creativity in that process.
Yeah. So
It's really cool.
So I usually play 25 or 30 games over the course of a weekend at Tantrum Con. So
And we talked about, we like that because you get to, both of us really like to dive in and play and learn that way. And if you don't do that, you have to watch YouTube videos and teach me. But this way, you'll get to actually
I can't
play
learn
them.
a board game by reading the manual. I just cannot. I'm more of a visual learner where I can watch a video and grasp it a little better. But I'm really a hands-on learner. Like, let's just go through it. I don't even care win or lose. I just want to learn.
That would be the only time that we don't care win or lose, is when we're learning.
Yeah.
After that, all bets are off and it's all about winning.
Right. And so I like going down there and playing these games and learning them from people who have played them before, and find some that I like and I can bring back, and me, you, and Ross can dive in and play them.
Yeah.
And, we've got some really great games through this, through me going down there to Tantrum Con or having our own board game conventions. And so,
and it's
that's where
just a
I'll be
way
this
that I
weekend.
encourage people too. Like, if you're looking for something, you're dating somebody, or you have kids or whatever, like they have games for everything. Like we have a national park game that's a lot of fun, and it has the pictures of the parks, which then not only am I playing the game and having fun, but then I'm like, I want to go to that park, or I don't know about that park. Or the bird game. Like our oldest son loves birds, and he's getting to take a class on it at App State. He's super excited. He's always been obsessed with birds, but every card has the birds and the type of bird and a little, a picture wingspan. It's amazing. Yeah. So there's just like,
it was one of the most popular games released when it came out. And I hadn't told you this. They now have a new version.
oh,
The play's a little different, so it didn't exactly like it, but it's called Fin Span, and it's fish.
fish. Oh, Josh. Now see, this will be, our family would be, if they could have a movie span or something for Maria, but perfectly represented because Josh loves fish and Jacob loves birds. But I think just that whole thing of the learning and keeping your mind engaged, and it gives you something to do. And it's a lot of fun. And the conventions are great, just meeting all types of different people. I think that it's a really cool hobby to have. It's an interactive hobby, gets you out,
Yeah.
It's just a cool hobby. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So next week when we record, you'll be hearing an update about Beth's colonoscopy, how that went.
Can we just let it go and
Complete
not talk
with
about it
video and
anymore?
pictures?
No. Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway.
And hearing about Tantrum Con.
But really important, no one liked our poll last week. So what are we going to do this week? What great controversy, colonoscopy or not? I don't know. What are we even going to do? I don't know.
We'll see. It's got to be something edgy, obviously.
I think it needs to be related to something about social media, probably. We spent a lot of time talking about that. Yeah. I guess we could see who's a TikToker and who's not.
Yeah, I got to figure out a better way to get that poll out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you to the one person that listened last week to the end. Because last week at the very end, we debuted a code word, and that's how we would know if people watched the whole thing.
And the code word this week is sunglasses. I'm throwing it in there.
All right. Last week it was roses. One person acknowledged it.
Yeah.
So thank you, one person. This week it's sunglasses. So if we hear from you this week and you say sunglasses, we'll know you listened
we're
to the
going to
whole
know
thing.
that you are loyal.
Yeah.
Now, the problem will be if you listen to this a year from now and then you come up to me and you say sunglasses, and I will be like, what's the context for this?
Yeah.
And I won't know what you're talking about. But, yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Beth, I hope you get to feeling better.
Thanks.
Hope everything comes out all right.
Oh, funny. Yes.
And I'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.